All right, we're going to pick up this conversation after this as well. But first, we got to get out to the Locked On guest line where we have college basketball, NBA draft expert, and certified SBG. He's Sam Vecenie. He covers all of this for winnersview.com. Sam, welcome onto the show.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going great.
Smiles.
So, we were talking before we got to you, Sam, that people we talk about the Charlotte Hornets and we've been focused on the season, but people have been pressuring us since before the All-Star break to talk about the draft because, and you know this, people love to talk about the draft. They love to talk about the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I've certainly been lucky enough to make my career out of it now. So I appreciate everyone who enjoys the draft as much as I do.
Hey, before we get to this draft talk, Sam, can you tell us briefly what Winners View is all about? I just discovered this. It looks really cool.
Yeah, so over at Winners View, we do a bunch of short video stuff where we are breaking down just the Trailblazers and Wizards now. We're probably going to be doing more as the playoffs get going. But we do short videos about the analytics behind the successes and, maybe criticisms of some of the, more interesting stories around those two teams. And we do hockey as well. There's some DFS aspects as well. I write for Sporting News and Vice in addition. So, busy time of the year for sure.
All right, everyone is getting their brackets prepped. Everyone's busy doing that, getting ready for the tournament to get kicked off. But I'm wondering these days, Sam, how much of a factor have NCAA tournament performances been recently in moving certain guys up and down the draft board?
Yeah, I think you can certainly point to a few examples. I mean, for instance, the pick that the Hornets traded last year to get Marco Bellinelli, the Kings took Malachi Richardson with that selection. And if Malachi Richardson doesn't go crazy in the NCAA tournament, then I don't think there's any chance he goes in the first round. With some scouts, it matters more than others. All of these guys definitely want to see these players, in the most important moments of their season, try and perform up to a certain level and up to par. Leaving a great impression upon NBA scouts is essential, really, to becoming an elite prospect. I think there are some guys like Markelle Fultz who aren't going to get the chance to, and that's okay. They're still going to be high picks, but it's certainly a place where you can help yourself as an NBA prospect as well.
Sam, I haven't even been able to watch Markelle Fultz, but I've just seen his name just popping up everywhere, and I see him number one on so many draft boards. What makes this guy so special?
He is just one of those overall complete offensive weapons that have become so valuable in today's NBA as a lead guard. I mean, he is one of the best pick and roll players in the entire country in terms of being able to score from all three levels as well as create for teammates that were not really up to par this year. They shot like 28% from three. Their effective field goal percentage was like the equivalent of 225th in the country this year without him in the picture. So, he's an overall offensive weapon at a time where the lead guard position is becoming more and more important throughout the entire NBA.
The Hornets will most likely be picking late lottery. Do you see anyone there that could have an immediate scoring impact on an NBA team or maybe have an immediate impact on the defensive end of the ball?
Well, I mean, in terms of defense, Jonathan Isaac, I think, is an excellent fit there. He is a 6'10", 6'11" player that is a really solid defender in terms of moving his feet on the perimeter as well as protecting the rim inside. He has a nose for the basketball. He likes to make plays on that end, and he plays super hard already as a 19-year-old, which is pretty rare on that end. So I think he's going to be a really good defensive player. The question with him is, what is he going to provide offensively right now? Because he's only taking like 8 shots a game for Florida State, despite being their most talented player. So I just kind of wonder, is the killer instinct going to kick in at some point with him, or is it not? In terms of offense, that's kind of in a weird portion of the draft, right? Where, like, if you have the number 10 overall pick right now, number 10 on my board is Lauri Markkanen from Arizona. I don't know how you guys feel about like another shooting white center, but I mean, if I was you guys, I would not feel all that great about it.
I think there might be pitchforks in the street.
Oh man, people would go nuts after that.
Well,
it'd be kind of amazing though.
Well, listen, they would be testing the boundaries of what the fan base could take in terms of draft news. That's for sure. I know. Speaking of what our listeners and what our viewers want out of the draft, I know that a lot of them have been tweeting us saying that they're hoping the Hornets can find a way to acquire Malik Monk in this draft. What makes Monk so special as a scorer?
Well, he's just an incredible shooter, first and foremost. He is at one point earlier this year, over the last decade, he had the highest point per shot metric of any player like in college basketball over the last decade when they were guarded. And he's just a tough shot maker. I mean, those guys are so valuable. The difference with Monk, though, is that, like, is he a guy that actually makes his teammates better? Is he a guy that's going to help you defensively? He's not really much of a passer from what we've seen so far. But the scoring ability just might be so volcanic, so explosive, that he's a worthwhile player. Like, he could, there were people comparing him early in the season to, like, Stephen Curry because of the way he was shooting the basketball, and that was overstated, I think. But if he's a Klay Thompson type shooter or something like that, like, you just can't ignore players that have put on such incredible displays like he has. He drops 49 or something against North Carolina. He's dropped 40 points like 2 or 3 times, dropped high 30s a couple times. This guy is just a ridiculous scorer in terms of creating his own shot, either on step backs or just off of the catch, off of screens.
Any chance that he falls back in this draft at all?
Well, I would be surprised if he fell out of the top 10, I would say. Even the top 9, really, I would be relatively surprised. There are a lot of teams that could use the shooting ability that he can bring. But what I will say for him is, like, teams definitely have their questions about him. Like, is he going to be able to defend? He's 6'3" with a 6'4" wingspan. Is he going to be able to become a better passer, more of a player that also helps make his teammates better around him? Having said that, though, he's going to be an explosive player in transition. He's going to be an explosive shooter. But the margin of error for those guys that are 6'3", that are explosive scorers, it's razor thin. Like, you quickly go from being Stephen Curry to, like, Lou Williams, just like in a matter of a snap of the fingers, just because it's so difficult for those guys to get efficient shots a lot of the time.
There's a guy that me and Doug have actually been talking about as of late that I didn't know he even liked, in Miles Bridges. I've seen him.
He was mine first.
Well, I've been on the Miles Bridges train since high school, but we won't go there. And I've seen him in some mock drafts anywhere from 10 to 14, and that's probably where the Hornets likely will be drafting. He seemed like a big guy, can play both ends of the floor. How do you see his game translating in the NBA?
I'm a big fan of him as kind of a connector of lineups, right? Like, he can play the 3. You can play him as a small ball 4. He's going to be able to play in a wide variety of different lineups. Do you want to play big? You want to play small? I think he's going to be able to do both, and that's kind of a difficult player to find in today's NBA. The wing position is one of the most scarce positions in the entire NBA. So he's going to provide value there. He's going to provide value defensively. He's going to provide value as just an incredible, ridiculous athlete that is going to be able to finish above the rim and get out in transition. And he's also a really good passer. I think that's probably his most underrated skill, is the fact that he's able to create either from the top of the key or from the wing or in the post. He's not really great at passing on the move yet, but I think he might get there. But yeah, he's a really interesting player for the Hornets. I don't really think he has a crazy amount of star power necessarily, which to me is kind of where the Hornets should be looking, even though it's difficult to find that, obviously, in the 10 to 14 range. But he would be a pretty nice fit with a Nikola Batum. He'd be an interesting fit with a Marvin Williams as well, because of Williams' shooting ability.
The Hornets are a team that will have a lot of veterans under contract come next season. So the idea of taking a project and developing that player would not be out of the question in my mind. Outside of the top 5 or so, who's your favorite project player in this draft?
It's probably Robert Williams, Texas A&M. He is a 6'9" pogo stick that plays basketball, essentially. He is
7
7'4" wingspan, really, really bouncy, finishes way above the rim, like way, way above the rim. Really good shot blocker. He was the SEC's Defensive Player of the Year this year, just because of the way he's able to shut down the area around the rim. He's pretty mobile as well on the perimeter. But the key skill for him is that he's flashed a jump shot this year. He's only hit like 2 of 23s, but the mechanics on it look pretty good. Like, it looks like once he gets with a shooting coach, once he gets with maybe guys in the Hornets organization, for instance, he might be able to fix that jump shot and become kind of a Serge Ibaka like archetype of player. You know what I mean? Like, he might not necessarily be Serge Ibaka. He might not reach the level where I think Serge Ibaka was probably one of the 30 most valuable players in the NBA at one point in Oklahoma City. I don't know that he'll ever get to that level, but he can be a similar type of player to Serge Ibaka, where he's able to protect the weak side of the rim with a vengeance, and then also potentially stretch it out and shoot from maybe even the NBA 3 at one point, but even hopefully from 18 to 20 feet.
The Hornets need to add some physicality and toughness on the defensive end. What are some players that come to mind that you feel like could address that need?
Yeah, Bridges is definitely one. Just having that physical mentality that he does, he would definitely provide some power on that end. The area that the Hornets are drafting in, though, is a little bit strange in terms of that, right? Like, you're talking about guys like Terrence Ferguson, who's like a skinny project 3-and-D guy. John Collins isn't a defender yet. Luke Kennard, not really a defender at all. Jarrett Allen is an interesting guy if he decides to leave Texas. There have been mixed reports on that recently. He's a big guy that has long arms, 7'5" wingspan. He's really filled out his frame over the course of the last year. He definitely has been more of an offensive player than a defensive player this year from what I've seen at Texas. But anytime you're that kind of size, 6'10" with a 7'5" wingspan, you're going to be able to protect the rim in a reasonable way. And if he can add some physicality to his game, that would really help him. Semi Ojeleye is another guy that I think could really rise up boards as the draft process continues to go. He's a 6'7" power athlete at like 235 pounds. He's really worked hard to build up his body and become the player he has. I don't think he gets into the lottery range, but if the Hornets were to go on a run here for some reason and end up making the playoffs, like in the 8 seed out of the Eastern Conference, I don't think he would look super out of place as like the 16th overall pick. And he's shooting 40% from 3. Like I said, a guy who can not only defend on the perimeter, but also defend in the post. So those are the kind of guys that I really like, guys that have some lineup versatility to them.
Sam, you mentioned a name that I've been trying to do some research on and get some insight on. And Terrence Ferguson, I know he's 6'7". I believe he's playing in Australia. And I've heard he could shoot. What do you think about him?
Yeah, he did not necessarily have a great statistical run in Australia. I think he put up like a 5.3 PER in like 450 minutes for Adelaide, which on its surface looks just atrocious. But you have to remember, he was one of the younger players in his recruiting class. I think he's still 18 years old. He's 6'7", like you said. 6'10" wingspan, but still super skinny. He's not really ready to play like professional basketball as an 18-year-old yet. He does showcase a lot of defensive versatility because he has really, really quick feet and he has really explosive athleticism. This is a guy that is kind of like Zach LaVine in terms of the way he can leap and be creative in the air. It wouldn't be crazy to me to see him win a dunk contest one day. And the fact that he can shoot also is something that is relatively clear at this stage. He won the Hoop Summit game MVP last year, while I think he made like 7 or 8 threes from up in Portland. So, he's a guy who definitely, when he gets hot, he's knocking down shots. He's really effective, but he's still, I think, a year or two away from being an effective wing player in the NBA.
All right, great stuff, Sam. We're just getting started with our draft research here on Locked On Hornets, and you've done a great job of basically teleporting us to a better place. So thank you so much, Sam, for all of that information. And where can people find you on Twitter and online?
Yeah, people can find me at Sam_Vecenie on Twitter. You can follow the Game Theory podcast, which is my podcast. We're going to be going, pretty close to daily at this stage for the NCAA tournament, at least 5 days a week while this entire thing is going wild, really. And you can follow my work over at, like we said earlier, winnersview.com. You can find it at Sporting News. I'll have a new updated NBA draft big board dropping there probably tomorrow, as well as Vice. I write a NBA draft column weekly for Vice. So follow all of those places.
Yeah, the Game Theory podcast, fantastic podcast, by the way. 98 minutes on the NCAA tournament the other day, and I enjoyed every single one of them. Got me through my workday, so thank you, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
All right, have a good one, Sam. Sam
too.
Vecenie. Great stuff. I feel so much better because he's kind of like the Cliff Notes guy that comes in.
Everything.
The guy that helped me get through college.
I follow him. I've been following him, I think, maybe 2 years or so. So as soon as the draft start coming along, I don't even have to tweet. I just watch his time.
So I have a question. So you've been following... You've been a Miles Bridges guy since high school? Were you exaggerating there?
No, honest to God. Well, I wanted him to come to Carolina, but he wasn't.
Was he like 11 when you were following him? I don't think this is legal.
No, I'm talking about like his senior year, like before he got to Michigan
I went and watched
State.
him at elementary school.
No, I just came on to him. I just came on to him late. I think Miles Bridges was like the number
Since
2.
he was in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, see, when you said it, it made it say that Captain Kurt agrees.
No.
When you said it, it made it sound like you said since you were in high school, you've been
you
following.
were watching him when he was in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never. Okay. Now I can see the confusion. I was like, what? I was like, I just watched him in the McDonald's All-American game. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm just glad we're able to clear that up.
We're on the same page now.
Okay.
But interesting stuff there from